And also, as supply chains are more mature and are considering all of these things in a holistic way, it develops a
하하, 안녕하십니까. 매일매일 운동하기를 실천하고 있는 동탄 왕호입니다. 운동해야죠. 오랜만이네요. 자, 봅시다. 오늘은 6월, 어제가 17일이었으니까 오늘은 6월 18일. 뭐가 있을까요? 범죄도시 2가 1000만을 넘었죠. 그리고 여전히 주식은 떨어지고 있습니다. 금리 인상을 빅스텝을 계속하고 있고요. 전쟁은 아직도 끝나지 않았고요. 아주 그렇습니다. 상황이 안 좋아요. 주식이 떨어지고 겨울까지 계속 떨어진다고 하는 것 같은데, 네, 다들 잘 주식 잘 대응하시길 바라겠습니다. 비트코인이냐고 말할 것도 없고 계속 떨어지고 있고요. 그리고 여름이 오고 있습니다. 가뭄이 되게 심했었는데 이제 장마가 시작이 된다고 합니다. 제주도부터 시작을 하고요. 다음 주는 이제 내륙을 조금씩 남부지방부터 시작이 될 것 같은데, 네, 운동하도록 하겠습니다. 똑같이 팔굽혀펴기랑 유무 일으키기 정도로 할게요. 역시 운동할 땐 쉬어야죠.
His victims
Every day I get a death threat.
and those trying to stop him.
How would you describe him to people who don't know him? How do you explain to folks who've never seen something this crazy?
If they want to fight, they better believe they've got heart.
Megaphone for conspiracy. Alex Jones. This is Alex Jones' InfoWars studio in Austin, Texas.
All right, you guys ready?
It looks like a professional news set, but the similarities end there.
I'll drink your blood. You understand that? I will hang your ass up and cut you into cutlets. The globalists are agents of corruption.
The official story of Sandy Hook has more holes in it than Swiss cheese.
A founding father of disinformation, Jones is infamous for his most vile lie, that the Sandy Hook shooting was a hoax.
The whole thing was fake.
Jones and his followers launched a years-long vendetta against the families of the children who were murdered.
He was fueling this conspiracy theory that the children didn't die, they were actors, real people were murdered, along with my son.
It made it impossible for these parents to have closure. All of my clients have received numerous death threats. They've all been in a situation where their lives have been in genuine peril.
Why pay attention to Jones?
There was so many people who said with Jones, if you just ignore it, it will go away. In order to grow, he didn't need any of the mainstream culture's attention. As long as he had that bubble that was allowed to grow and fester uninterrupted, that's what made him a major cultural force. So ignoring him did nothing for us.
That bubble started nearly 30 years ago with a show that would become InfoWars.
The government said they were going to put poisons and toxins and bioweapons in the vaccines.
More than a decade before COVID-19, Jones was spreading dangerous conspiracy theories that now sound eerily recycled.
The UN, the World Health Organization, the CDC have all been caught adding sterilizers, cancer viruses, poisons.
InfoWars has grown from a fledgling radio show into a multimedia empire that has reached tens of millions.
There is a formula. The formula is you find a story that people are upset about and you play it up as much as you possibly can, as extreme as possible, in the most dramatic way.
CNN spoke in depth to those who have followed Jones' rise and those who have worked with him. Filmmaker Kaylin Robertson appeared repeatedly on Jones' show, made a documentary with him, before realizing it was all a sham.
I felt like I was doing the right thing, like I felt like I was on the side of truth.
Robert Jacobson worked at InfoWars for 13 years, then finally had enough.
He will just lie, straight up lie, like nothing's going on, like it's real. And the issue with that is a lot of people believe him.
Josh Owen spent 4 years editing and producing at InfoWars.
People always ask me, does Jones believe the things that he says? I don't know if it matters if he believes the things that he says, because the people who listen to him believe the things that he says.
The elites are killing little kids, drinking blood, torturing people.
Every one of those thought patterns that either the 3%ers, the QAnon group, the anti-vaxxers, they all originate from Alex. He's the foundation of all this stuff.
Hillary Clinton is a goddamn demon. Excuse me taking the word. It's not taking it in vain. She is a demon damned to hell. Excuse me.
His whole shtick is that there is a war for your mind.
The New World Order is run by absolutely ruthless individuals, hell-bent on dehumanizing the entire human community.
It's the idea that these shadowy figures in the New World Order are really controlling things.
The fruits of the New World Order are hell and death and destruction.
Once written off as unhinged, fringe, and crazy, Alex Jones has become an alt-right influencer, and his theories have become mainstream, delivered to an even wider audience, often with a violent message.
I want to break your jaws and grab it with my hands and rip the mandible off your head. I want to bash your brains out. I want to bring you low.
A lot of Alex Jones's content is deeply dangerous. The nature of his delivery and its violence in its words is effective, I think, in drumming up anger and really playing on people's sense of fear or anxiety.
If they want to fight, they better believe they can.
Some who listen to Jones have committed acts of violence. One killed police officers. Another fired shots at the White House. Another opened fire in a DC pizza restaurant. And on January 6, 2021, Alex Jones and his influence were on full display at the U.S. Capitol. Long before they became infamous on January 6th, members of the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the Stop the Steal movement, all were deeply connected to Alex Jones.
Once you start looking at all the different places he appears in our culture, you understand that he has had an outsized level of influence for somebody like him. And part of that is because he was able to fly under the radar for so long.
Jones grew up in a small suburb of Dallas, where even as a young man, he would act out and spin tall tales. Bo Durham was a friend from Jones' neighborhood.
There was a lot of strange things going on in that time with him. There was a lot of things that I witnessed that were people didn't do.
Friends claimed he memorized the Bible, talked about Satan, and at times seemed possessed.
He would talk in tongues a lot. He would get into these trances.
High school football coach Randy Talley said Jones craved attention.
I don't believe in any witchcraft, hocus pocus, or anything like that, but he could turn his tongue black and his mouth black, and he would stick his tongue out and shake his head as if though he were possessed.
He could turn his tongue black. I saw him do that on a couple of occasions.
You're the second person who's told me this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
I don't either. He would have to be really spun up and in kind of in that state where he was really upset. He would stick that tongue out and it would literally go black.
And he was violent.
You know, once I hit puberty, I became somewhat of a hellion. A lot of fighting.
Including one fight that would change his life. For years, Jones has told viewers a story of why he and his family had to leave suburban Dallas and why he's obsessed with government corruption.
We were having an auditorium meeting about drug testing and stuff. They had cops up there that I knew were drug dealers. And I stood up and I said, I was at a pool party. He was selling cocaine and ecstasy last week. They took me in an office, ran my head in the wall, told me, we're gonna kill you. They said, you're gonna move out of this town right now.
That's the furthest thing from the truth. I can unequivocally deny that ever happened.
Randy Talley and others who spoke to CNN remember it differently. Not a fight involving a corrupt police force, but Alex Jones attacking another student named Jared Morrow.
I saw Jared's feet go up in the air, and then I saw Alex drop down, which, you know, they call it a pile driver, and he, you know, pile drived him.
Jones slammed Morrow headfirst into the floor. Morrow tells CNN he suffered a concussion and 9 skull fractures that will not heal.
As far as fights go, that was the most brutal that I had seen.
After Alex's fighting troubles, the Jones family would quietly move.
Hello, Austin, Texas. I'm Alex Jones.
In the mid-1990s, Jones would eventually find the attention he craved, spreading lies, conspiracy theories on public access cable TV.
I'm trying to get the information out to you folks.
I had a camera about a foot away from my face, and I was controlling the systems myself, and I went live. And I talked for an hour.
So sick of wimps and scum! Filthy scum everywhere! Weaklings that never got in a fist fight.
There was no social media, right? So what this was basically was sort of a local YouTube. Anybody could have a show.
Alex inspired a lot of folks. There was 20 Alexes on the air at that time. A lot of guys were doing very similar things, but he stood out.
Yes, black helicopters are being used for surveillance of the public.
So it's maybe a little bit more risky.
Kelly Jones, Jones' ex-wife, met and worked for him at the public access station. They would later fall out in a bitter divorce.
If you ever spend any amount of time with him, like he's not like you or me. He's abnormal. Like he's really strange and weird.
I'm a weird son of a gun.
Man, of course I'm weird.
That weirdness mixed with his charisma would make Jones an Austin superstar. He would get a time slot on a local radio station that later went national.
When he was younger, he was very articulate, very dynamic. He looks great on camera.
He would pull stunts, demanding attention on Austin's street corners.
This is how George Bush dresses.
Got a radio show, got these TV shows.
We'll continue to keep you posted on what's going on in Oklahoma City.
He would spin major news events, no matter how tragic, into darker conspiracy theories.
The government had prior knowledge and was instrumental in engineering the attacks on the Alfred P. Murrah building in Oklahoma City.
Today's attack at Columbine High School could be the worst mass shooting in United States history.
Columbine, we know, was a false flag.
He took advantage of a new forum, streaming on the internet at a time when half the country didn't yet have access to the web.
And don't believe me, go to Infowars.com.
By September 2001, Jones had built a following willing to believe just about anything.
We've cleared off all these streets.
Then on a clear Tuesday morning, September 11th, Alex Jones, who had spent a lifetime trying to get attention, would see a tragedy as his biggest opportunity yet.
We have been predicting this nightmarish development for years.
Fundamentally, the world is changing very rapidly because of technology and globalization, and people need to learn new skills, and if they do, there's a wide range of new opportunities for new jobs if people get skilled up. So we think this is going to persist far beyond the pandemic. There's a lot of interest for individuals coming directly to Coursera Online to take professional certificates, to learn the skills, to get new digital careers. But the other thing that we're seeing is that businesses are realizing that embracing technology, going digital, moving to the cloud, using AI makes them more competitive. And so businesses are upskilling their employees using Coursera, and now post-pandemic, universities and colleges all around the world, even as students come back to campus, they're realizing that integrating online learning into the way that students learn is a great way to provide flexibility and also access to emerging skills.
Free the Girls is an anti-trafficking organization that was started to help survivors re-enter the workplace through the sale of secondhand bras in used clothing markets around the world. My name is Dave Terpstra, and I'm co-founder of Free the Girls. One of the things that we discovered that survivors struggle with is getting back into society after they've been rescued, after they've been rehabilitated. How do they re-engage real life? And so we created a program that's designed to help them start their own micro-enterprise and grow their own business for themselves. We have women donate bras, and as we say, bras are something women wear close to their hearts. And this is an issue that touches the hearts of many women, and they want to play a part. They hear about these women who are traumatized, who have been trafficked around the world in terrible situations, And this is such a tangible way for them to reach out. When CNN first came 10 years ago to tell our story, we hadn't yet shipped our first container across. And CNN was there to record the entire process when that container arrived. That first container had 30,000 bras. We've since shipped 9 40-foot containers. Over 1 million bras have come here to Mozambique for our women to sell. That has transformed some lives.
In the aftermath of the attack on New York, amid billowing smoke, the search for missing loved ones, and a nation seeking a way forward, Alex Jones would spread the lie that his own government was to blame.
I'm telling you right now, 90% chance it came from the U.S. government or from the EU.
The critical moment over the arc of Alex Jones' life is when he seizes on what's called the 9/11 Truther Movement, which really should be called the 9/11 Hoax Movement, that 9/11 was an inside job.
America today is on bended knee.
The outrageous lie that the government of George W. Bush had plotted, planned, and aided the attack. Believers would come to be known as truthers.
My friends, the government just didn't have prior knowledge of September 11th Al-Qaeda attacks. They actually funded, trained, protected, coddled, shepherded Al-Qaeda into this country.
Even for Alex Jones, this time he went too far. A majority of the stations carrying his radio show canceled it.
Everything that was supposed to destroy him did have a negative impact, but also catapulted him to a higher level.
As Jones would explain in an interview years later, obtained by CNN, his 9/11 lies made him a conspiracy superstar.
That launched this whole cult deal in the whole world. I didn't realize how big it was. Look, I was the leader of the 9/11 Truth Movement.
9/11 smoking guns.
He starts putting out these videos that are adjuncts to his radio show and then his internet show, spreading these conspiracy theories, and starts to build a cult-like following around these lies.
Stop making excuses for what they're doing to us!
When Alex goes on camera and he gets himself riled up and starts shouting and starts getting hysterical, it's what his audience feel like inside, and he played the character that they wanted to hear for them. The furious Take Back America.
2008 brought Barack Obama, a new slew of conspiracy theories, and more success for InfoWars.
Ladies and gentlemen, Barack Obama is not my king, he is not my master, he is not my lord. He is nothing but a mask of the globalist.
Joe Biggs here with Infowars.com. Now we're standing in front of the Islamic Center of America.
He would stir up fears of Muslims taking over the United States for years, and sent Joe Biggs, who would later become a leader of the Proud Boys, on so-called reporting trips across the country. Former InfoWars employee Josh Owens was part of the production team.
They wanted us to go to these majority Muslim communities and report on why are these people in these communities? What's going on? This seems suspicious. You know, there was nothing to it.
No Sharia law overruling the United States government?
No, but that's what Jones wanted. We made up the stories because there was nothing to report on. In essence, we lied.
And with the growing popularity of social media, Jones finally had the outlet that would be a perfect amplifier for his outrage.
A lot of his clips would go viral. Alex Jones used platforms like Facebook, like Twitter, like YouTube to draw people in.
They would promote and amplify the kind of content that gets people most engaged.
He knew that if he made videos that were more extreme, more outrageous, more shouty,
clean them out!
YouTube would give it to people that weren't looking for him. And around 80% of their views were from YouTube recommendations, were for people who weren't looking for his content. A huge amount of InfoWars' success was the algorithms.
Court documents show InfoWars' audience nearly doubled in 4 years.
He wants to give people what they came there to get.
True or not?
True or not, when there was a mass shooting, there was a definite get everything you can to try to prove that it was a false event.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Connecticut State Police have responded to reports of a shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School.
The bodies of those children are still in the school.
20 children, 6 adults, and the shooter. 27 total.
Don't ever think the globalists that have hijacked this country wouldn't stage something like this. They kill little kids all day, every day.
The day of the Sandy Hook shooting proved nothing was off limits, even the slaughter of children.
I said they are launching attacks. They are going to come after our guns, look for mass shootings. And then magically it happens.
Jones claimed it was a government plot, a false flag. The grieving parents, crisis actors.
You've got parents laughing, going, ha, ha, ha. And then they walk over to the camera and go,
What Alex and the crew was doing was accusing parents of an unspeakable tragedy, of being liars as well. It was the grossest level of insult I can imagine.
The whole thing is a giant hoax.
People tend to think, well, Alex Jones maybe got on his show a couple times and said Sandy Hook was fake. And the reality is that it was an obsession he could not let go of.
Jones's audience ate it up. One InfoWars article claiming FBI says no one killed at Sandy Hook was viewed more than 3 million times.
There have been Sandy Hook fanatics who show up at families' houses and start banging on their door. They continually harass these parents.
I don't think you can find a lower person than somebody like Alex Jones.
Neil Heslin lost his 6-year-old son, Jesse, in that shooting.
Alex Jones has put a lot of lives in danger, a lot of families' lives in danger and at risk.
He and others have sued Jones over his loss. Mark Bankston is the attorney representing some of the families.
At InfoWars, there is a nearly bottomless well of hatred and cruelty. They do not care about the typical things that you would expect a reasonable, rational person to care about.
This is Dan Bidandi.
Jones would hire pro wrestler Dan Bidandi to cover Sandy Hook for InfoWars, and Bidandi harassed city employees.
The Sandy Hook truth is coming out. You people going to jail.
It looks like you were just trying to drum up conspiracies, kind of make a spectacle of yourself, really.
It's not conspiracy theories. I mean, it's just questions.
It's complete conspiracy.
No, it's because the most American public was thinking the same thing. I mean, how can we trust them? How could
Most of the American public, I guarantee you, was not thinking that it was fake.
No, nobody said it was fake, but there was...
Crisis actors?
I didn't say that, but the thing is, I know they're not crisis actors. I went to the grave sites, I mean, the memorial and everything was sad. It was heartbreaking to see...
You were all part of it, Dan.
No, I was just saying, I was doing my job.
Of that whole conspiracy theory and part of that.
It's still the First Amendment.
Alex Jones never responded to multiple CNN requests to be interviewed for this program, but talked about Sandy Hook in a deposition.
So you do not believe that you've done an outrageous wrong to these parents?
I have not done an outrageous wrong to the parents. You know, almost had like a form of psychosis back in the past where I basically thought everything was staged. You know, I'm now learning a lot of times things aren't staged. So, you know, I think as a pundit and someone giving opinion, that, you know, my opinions have been wrong, but they were never wrong consciously to hurt people.
To say Jesse never existed, he never died, you know, you're defaming this little boy. It's a 6-year-old boy. Just awful. There's no words for it.
Donald, thank you for joining us.
It was this Alex Jones that in 2015 was singled out, sought after by a presidential candidate named Donald Trump.
No!
Karachi, Istanbul, and this is CNN.
Connect the world with Becky Anderson.
It all starts here. Changing, fighting, creating, connecting. That's why we're here. We live here, we work here, we're from here, and we'll go wherever the story takes us.
I'm Becky Hansen in Tehran.
We are in Jerusalem. Real news that shapes our world. Exploring not just what's going on, but why. I just want to press you on one further point. Getting perspective on this region from this region. Places that many of us know, but few of us get to see. Observing countries on the move, still rooted in tradition. It all starts here, and that's why we're here, bringing you the world from our Middle Eastern hub.
Connect the World with Becky Anderson, Monday through Friday on CNN.
Business is all about making connections. But some connections are easier to make than others. With a CNN partner hotel, the world is always at your fingertips. CNN partner hotels, connected to your world.
Afghan women are afraid that this is the beginning of your efforts to erase them from the workspace.
It's not clear, even if we appear with the burqa,